Yeah, Warriors, we're drinking it down. Raise your voices and stare at this town. We're the champions of craft beer sport. Tolkien audio, we hold down the fort.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome inside a brand new edition of the Tall Can Audio Podcast. Matt Robinson back with you in the TCA studio in oh so beautiful Bytown, Canada. I'll be really honest with you. We'll get into a couple of things here tonight, but as most of you know, I was off camping this past weekend. That's why we had a little pre-recorded something on your Monday morning. One question answered about every NHL team. I hope you enjoyed that, despite the fact that, as predicted, some things were spoiled by the time we got to it. But as you can almost certainly hear in my voice, I'm playing hurt today. And it's nothing more than seasonal allergies, which just beat the shit out of me again this weekend. It happens from time to time at the cottage. Some years are worse than others. But back here in the city, where everything's nice and concrete, a lot of cement, right? Not a lot of dander flowing around in the air, not a lot of hay fever symptoms, whatever else might be going on here that causes my body to go into shutdown. Those things don't really exist here in the city, where we have destroyed nature. Went back out and it was a beautiful weekend. Great to see a lot of people. We'll get into the details on that maybe the next time Rob's in studio. But myself, my niece, my mom, one or two other people there were just throwing back the reactant, right? Like head pounding, sinuses loaded. And honestly, I didn't really plan to do anything when I first got back because of how I was feeling. And we did get a show out on Monday. But man, there was just, you know, when you sort of plan to unplug, and it's funny when you say unplug, a lot of millennials at this little reunion camping thing that I went to. Obviously, a lot of people my age, a lot of people a little younger, a little older. And we used to get together as kids all the time, these families, and it's campfire games and jokes and whatever else. And now at some point, like when you look around the circle, somebody's got their phone out. And it wasn't over the top, but it's just natural now. Somebody's getting a text. Somebody's scrolling through their Instagram. So you're not fully disconnected. But I was out of the studio. I was checking my phone a lot less often. And on a weekend where I wasn't going to be in studio on Sunday afternoon to put together a fresh Monday morning edition of the show, we had one of the wildest sports weekends of the year. We had multiple must-win scenarios on the last day of the Major League Baseball season. The Leafs re-signed their starting goaltender. There was a little controversy around the Sens and not being able to get their game on television. Alexander Barkov goes down injured. The Ravens and Chiefs, I think we're at a point where it might be okay to sound some concerns on the Ravens. The Ryder Cup becomes a MAGA shit show. Everything went off this weekend, and it was at a time where I wasn't going to be back in studio. So I got back here on Monday, and I'm sort of like, don't do it. Don't subject the good people to the condition your voice is in right now. But as the afternoon and evening went on, I decided, you know what? We're going to talk about something. The Toronto Blue Jays won the AL East this weekend. We have to do something. We have to have a little bit of a conversation. So we're going to bang out a couple things here quick, and we'll give myself and my voice another day or two to recover before we jump back in after this one. We'll no doubt do some more talk on the Blue Jays teeing up what will be a fascinating ALDS for them, no matter who they play. You're getting the Yankees or the Red Sox, neither of whom the Jays have ever faced in the playoffs before. So this will be interesting. We'll get more into that. And I'd be curious to get your feedback on what you want this to look like. We've been teasing it for a little while. Brent Wallace is coming in here on Friday afternoon. And if I pull the curtain back for you guys a little bit on how I like to do business around the studio, I don't love Friday afternoon recording sessions because people miss things on the weekend. I'm sure a lot of you right now are listening to this at the gym or on your drive into work or whatever goes on during your typical weekday routine. And so when you have someone in on Friday, do you drop it right away like that afternoon? Do you save it and maybe drop it on Saturday morning when you know listeners are going to be down a bit because most people aren't in that Monday to Friday routine? And then maybe they never see it by the time they get back in on Monday. A couple other things have dropped. Do you wait and release it later on the following week. We did do that with the Julian McKenzie episode. And it turned out fine. But next week's going to be a busy one. Graham Nichols is going to be back in here to do the annual Ottawa Senators season preview. Jeff Viette is supposed to be back to do the annual Toronto Maple Leafs season preview. And the baseball playoffs, or at least the DS series where the Jays will be playing, will also be up and going. So next week's going to be a busy one. I don't know if I want to hold it. So I'd be curious. We are excited to get Wally in here for the first time. What do you want me to do? Just drop it as soon as it's done, Friday afternoon. Maybe it'll be in time for the afternoon commute. Drop it first thing Saturday morning, hold it, and find a day for it the following week. I'll be curious. You can let us know at Talkcan Audio on social media. DMs are open, as the kids say, or our mentions, or wherever you want to let us know. How do you want us to handle the Friday afternoon conundrum? It was more important to me this time. Like, often I will encourage repeat guests or some of our friends of the show who come in, let's not do this on a Friday. It's just an awkward day. But this was during a busy training camp, the best time for Wally. And since it was a first-timer for him, he's making his debut, we'll go ahead and obviously make that time slot work. But when do you want me to drop that episode? Let us know at Talkcan Audio, Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you're hearing us right now. All of that coming up. It's going to be a lot of fun. This is going to be, the way the NFL has kicked off this season, the start of hockey season, the Jays in the playoffs. These next few weeks are going to be a ton of fun. Let's get into it right away here with the Jays. We'll get to the Leafs. We'll get to the Sens here in a couple of minutes. We probably won't get to the Ryder Cup. I did think it was fascinating, but I don't have a whole lot to add other than it was a fairly embarrassing display by a lot of the fans there. And I keep seeing people, that's New York, when you go to New York, you got to count on that. It's like going to Philly and you're at a golf course yelling that shit. What do you... Anyway, let's not do that thing right now. The Toronto Blue Jays are your AL East champions. We can start here by saying to the Chicago White Sox and the Baltimore Orioles, fucking thanks for nothing. Just laying down and allowing the Yankees to force this all the way to the last day, giving nobody any help, showing no pride, no backbone, no ability to stand up and say, we will play right to the end. No, just a fucking popcorn fart from the opponents that the Yankees got served up here down the stretch. Meanwhile, the Jays are in it. Like, even on the final Sunday, the Jays get up 5-1 in the first, and you're like, okay, like maybe this won't be all that stressful of a day. And it would have been real easy at that point. And to be fair, the Rays had left some pretty important bats out of their lineup that day. So it's not like they were giving you their best possible lineup. I think some of that turned out to be health-related for at least Yandy Diaz. But you get up 5-1, and I was a little hurt on Sunday. Like I said, we had a little bit of a reunion over the course of the weekend, and Saturday was a pedal down day, a late night. So on Sunday afternoon, I was looking for a nap. I was looking for an opportunity to put my feet up, watch the game, and maybe sleep through an inning or two. That's exactly what happened. Jays get up 5-1. Your heart rate drops a little. Okay, this isn't going to be too stressful. We can kind of coast from here. The big Alejandro Kirk grand slam. Maybe this will be easy enough. And I did fall asleep for an inning or two, and I woke up. It was 5-4, and suddenly heart rate up again, blood pressure up again. While the Orioles are just giving it up for the Yankees, the Rays are here to play today, and we're going to have to fight. Now, it does, from there, as you all know, sort of come undone again. It ends up being 13-4. It's fairly, by the end of it, anticlimactic. But I thought the vibes around the Dome, watching how that played out, were incredible. Like, people standing up through the entire top of the ninth inning. I thought it was really fun that they went to Eric Lauer. That guy has given you some really important innings this year after, showing up to spring training, not really sure what his role was going to be, and not even sure he was going to have one. He's been through some injuries. He's been through some ups and downs. He starts the year in the bullpen. Ends up starting. We had the discussion all season long while he was starting. Hey, when is this for real? Is this for real? Might we have to have a conversation about Eric Lauer in the rotation when the playoffs start. Now, they decide before the wheels come off, this isn't real. We know what Eric Lauer is. You're a good soldier. You've done some awesome things for us this year, and we're going to mention some other moments, some other performances here in a bit. But, the Blue Jays broadcasts have been making a big deal for a while out of John Schneider pointing out that when asked for who maybe his MVP would be this season, was Eric Lauer. Stepped in and took a pile of big innings when the rotation was beat up a little bit, and you weren't sure what was going to happen with Max Scherzer, who, had obviously been hurt and had the finger issue and the going up his arm, whatever was going on there. You didn't yet have Shane Bieber. He ate a bunch of innings, and he didn't just eat them, like fill them up, and, he gave up 4 runs. He was incredible through them, and they didn't push their luck when it was time. They moved them to the bullpen, and you hadn't seen a whole lot of them. I really liked that that's who they went to close out the game on Sunday afternoon. I think if you go back to the bullpen day earlier in the week, he came up and put down 11 batters in a row after Louis Varland had started. Again, incredibly valuable innings where you just got it done. I thought that was John Schneider. You can tell he's got a soft spot, and I don't mean that in a condescending way. Eric Lauer was full value. He was metal for the Blue Jays this year in the situations they used him. If it's a tight game, I'm sure they're going to their guys. I'm sure you're seeing Dominguez and Hoffman and whatnot. But in that situation where you're up by 9 runs in the 9th inning, the manager can just kind of go, who do I want to give this moment to? And he chose Eric Lauer. And so I think based on the comments that I mentioned there a few minutes ago that John Schneider had given to the media and his decision to give Eric Lauer that moment at home, I thought that was cool. I appreciated that, and I think it shows pretty clearly John Schneider's got a soft spot for this guy. He likes this guy. He wanted him to have that moment, and it was an awesome moment. Fans on their feet through the whole thing, crowd going crazy, and just it got so tense down the stretch. Like, they did lose a 5.5 game lead. Like I said, the Yankees were just walking over whatever AA squad had been put in front of them for the last seemingly 3 weeks. And the Blue Jays were scuffling, and it wasn't going all that well. And it was tense in the building when the game started. And, you could tell when Kirky hit that grand slam in the bottom of the first, you can feel that tension being released. And as I mentioned, Tampa manages to ratchet up that tension again, because that's what they do. They get back within 1. And then you start to chip away at it, and it's 6-4, and then it's 8-4, and then by the end of it, everyone's in on the party. And man, just watching, I saw some of it I rewatched the 9th inning on the video feed later on. In the moment, I had the radio feed on with Ben Schulman and Chris LaRue, and just the vibes there you could hear through your radio down at the Dome. It was just so cool to hear that moment. And by then, in the 9th, it's yours. This is now a formality, and people are up and they're dancing and they're hugging and whatever in the crowd. And Blue Jays fans, like any fan base, has its ugly corners, has its brilliant corners, and then most of us are just somewhere in the middle that's like, this is a hell of a ride. It's a long ride. It's an up and down ride. It's at times frustrating. It's at times incredible. And we are here, and this is ours. And we have taken this from the Yankees. Like, it's not just like I said, a formality that, we've sort of finished the division, or that, we've known for when they had the clinching of the playoffs there against Kansas City, and they had the party, and everybody looked like they enjoyed themselves as far as the players go. But this one was different. This was an exhale. This was we went 162 games wire to wire in the toughest division in baseball, and we are standing here number 1 right now. And that meant something to this team, and it meant a lot to these fans, and it's an odd dynamic. Like, it almost varies from sport to sport, right? Like, one of the things that people hate about Toronto Maple Leafs fans is they think they're king shit in the biggest market in the league. Haven't won a thing, and yet, ego this or smug that, or there's 100 legitimate criticisms of Leaf fans that we don't have to dig into here. But you look at the Raptors fan base, in a lot of cases, it's the exact same dudes. Not always, but there are obviously, like in any market, people who love every team there. And that fan isn't the smug king shit Leaf fan, despite being the exact same guy, maybe in the exact same seat with the exact same address. He's not smug king shit, we are the best in the world Leaf fan. He's now underdog, nobody respects us up here Raptors guy, right? Like one of the league's outposts that free agents don't want to come to and American media doesn't respect us and these sorts of things. The Jays are sort of, I would say, in the middle, but again, a lot of crossover. There are some, like these other, who are only hockey fans, only basketball fans, only baseball fans, but a lot of the people in the Dome there on Sunday are that average sports fan that I'm talking about, who just love their teams no matter what. And the Jays in baseball are one of the top 3, top 5 markets, whether it be just Toronto or when they try and play the All of Canada card. And sometimes it's more relevant than other times. But nobody expected this team to win the division, including most reasonable Jays fans and Toronto sports fans. But there's also just this kind of afterthought, right? Like the Yankees and the Red Sox get all the love. The Orioles are sort of one of those classic franchises. Tampa Bay, everyone loves to comment on, and rightfully so, their plucky nature and how they're always going to hang around. And then it's just Toronto. It's that other thing that's going on up there. And yet, there's sort of this, I would say, halfway between the Raptor guy and the Leaf guy. It's like, no, we deserve this. We much like a Leaf fan, we deserve more respect. You should talk about us more, this sort of thing. And also somewhere in that Raptor guy that, like, I like being the underdog. You don't give us a fair shake. You don't respect us, and yet we can step up and bite somebody on the ass. And so after 162 games, this Blue Jays team, with major contributions from names, like I said, like Eric Lauer, Miles Straw, Ernie Clement, Nathan Lucas. Like, this team has its stars and its big players. But how many times did Ernie Clement come up with a huge RBI? Or Nathan Lucas make a big play? I think the guy's 30 years old. Like, this is not some young... He's kind of a journeyman, and he's out here and he's making huge plays for you. And so, I don't know, there was just something about the fact that when the third out happened on Sunday afternoon, I didn't think the ovation was as huge as I thought it would be. But watching it back a second time, it's because all the way through that inning, it was already so loud. Like, you went from big moments where you're all nervous and we're all, if it hadn't been 13-4, if it had been 5-4 and you need one big out, something like that, the crowd's nervous, the crowd's tense, and it's a little quieter, and it's, oh my God, are we going to get through this? Are we going to do it? And then when it happens, it's this huge eruption. That whole ninth inning was a party. And that's why I think, like, there was still a noticeable bump in the crowd roar when they did get the third out. But it was just because there was already this buzz through the entire inning that was so fun to watch. And for people who go down there every night, these days it's not cheap. It was, despite being a really fun season, a really good season, towards the end it was challenging. Just to see the life in the crowd when that happened for this somewhat, like, we feel like we should be viewed as one of the league's big markets, but we're not. So we're going to sort of put on this almost fake underdog quality. Like I said, sort of halfway between that Leaf fan and that Raptor fan. To watch those people and the vibe that they gave off on the broadcast was just so much fun, man. 162 games, it's a long one. It's hard to remember every huge play. You're obviously going to have a little bit of recency bias, but, you look at what Kirk did. He had been ice cold in September. And obviously on Sunday, he has the grand slam. He has the second home run there, the 2-run shot. But you go back to Saturday, where he uncorks one. And at that point, you have the lead. it sort of feels like the game's under control, but he comes up and he puts the nail in that one. I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe the Yankees kicked the shit out of Baltimore that day. Maybe it was Friday. That one wasn't even close. And you needed to know that you were going to win. Otherwise, the dynamics for Sunday completely change. So that one was wild. You go back just a couple days before that, the Dalton Varsho Grand Slam. It's that game. I did a pod after that one, the Friday morning show. It still didn't really look like your offense had come to life, but you just kind of got some opportune hitting at the right time, all of it in sort of 1 or 2 innings, and Grand Slam by Varsho caps it off. All of a sudden, the pressure's off, the tension valve kind of releases a little bit, and they badly needed that. There's been so many big plays like that. I mentioned Ernie Clement and how many times he's come through just making contact at the right time, right? IKF, when he first returned, had a couple of big hits. George Springer on Canada Day against the Yankees to make sure that you were going to have the tiebreaker as you were kicking the shit out of them back in July. There's so many great moments like that throughout the year. Shane Bieber's debut with the team, where I don't know that my phone has ever been more lit up on just a random Friday night broadcast than that night. Friends who are sort of half in on baseball, half out. If the team's good, they're following it. And the team had been good, and now they hear about this guy, and he's having a dominant start, and everybody's texting, everybody's tweeting at you, everybody's DMing you or whatever. There were so many fun nights like that. So many fun moments like that this year. And it all culminates with winning the division. And you guys have heard me on this show for the last couple of years talk about how I'm more and more starting to think that the Europeans have it right in terms of emphasizing winning your season more than we do over here. It's sort of like you play our sports for 6 months and then nobody gives a shit about the President's Trophy in the NHL. In fact, some teams don't even want it. It's a curse going into the Cup. You throw away the 6 months you just played and go, okay, well, whatever happens in the next 2 months is what really matters. And that's fun too. This is about to be a lot of fun for Jays fans. This is going to be tense. It's going to be, in plenty of moments, frankly, unfun. But it's better to be here than to not. But to go in the hardest division in baseball and it come right down to the last day, and you are the champ, we should celebrate that. You should enjoy that. It's a long season. It's a lot of games. And starting on Saturday, you're going to play a best 3 out of 5. And we're sort of going to go, everything that we just did for 6 months doesn't matter anymore because now we want this next thing. And that's legit. That's fair. That's the way we do things over here. But I do wish we valued these long seasons a little bit more than we do. The President's Trophy in the NHL should mean more than it does. But it just doesn't. It's all about the Cup, right? It's all about the next 2 weeks in that one round. And then the next 2 weeks, and then the next 2 weeks, and you just sort of forget about the 6 months it took to get there. So, like I said, I was happy for these guys. Even the guys you've been frustrated with lately, like Scherzer, man, he's had a terrible finish to the season, but he also had some big moments for you. It was fun to see him earlier in the year, and it was fun he got some wins. He got through some innings that you needed. It's hard to remember that now because we played so many of these goddamn games, but you're not there. You're not. It took right down to game 162. If you don't get those wins that he gave you, man, you're not there. You finish second. You're getting ready to fire up a wild card. We'll leave the baseball talk there for a second. As I mentioned off the top, the Jays have never faced the Yankees or the Red Sox in the playoffs, and one of them's coming to the Dome on Saturday, and that'll be a great story. We'll look to get more into that later in the week. We'll reach out to some of our friends, see who we can coax into coming onto the show to talk a little bit more about that. I do want to mention the Anthony Stolarz extension with the Leafs. 4 years times $3.75 million. I did post a quick quote tweet from around the campfire at the campgrounds. It's probably one more year than I would have wanted to give him. It might be 2 more years than I would have wanted to give him. But seeing that cap hit number start with a 3, man, for what he did for you last year, And for the last couple of years, he had been pretty good. The question has always been durability. Can you count on him? And he missed 24 games in the regular season last year with a knee injury. Went and had surgery. So he didn't go wire to wire for you last year. Started a career high 35 games. Like all his advanced statistics, even his save percentage and stuff like that, like he was one of the top 10 guys in the league last year in a lot of different ways. But 35 games of it. Not even, like he can't even get you yet. You can't swear he'll get to that 41 where he's legitimately splitting the season, right? Just need another 41 games from the other guy, and he's never gotten there. So that's a little worrying. He's 31. He'll turn 32 in January. So term, I didn't love it, but that's the trade-off that you make, right? To get that cap hit down into $3.75 million with the way the cap is going up, that's an incredibly manageable number. And the Leafs, to their credit, they pressed every CBA button they could here before they go away. Money up front, you got it. Signing bonus, you got it. Like all the things that the NHL is getting ready to squeeze out as of next September, well, they're not squeezed out yet. And so that will also make, should he not stay healthy, should he age poorly, whatever might be the concerns of this, you're going to have paid off like 65% of the money on this in the first 2 out of the 4 years, which in theory would make him easier to move. And frankly, as that cap number keeps jumping in the giant ways that it is, 3.75, quite frankly, isn't all that tough to bury or just live with. Or, again, an interesting element to this one, when the new CBA kicks in, you don't get the full cap hit anymore of the guy you're putting on LTIR. So Sasha Barkov for the Florida Panthers, $10 million guy. Previously, you would have the ability to go $10 million over the cap until he returned. You don't get that anymore. You now get whatever the league average salary was from the previous season. So last year, league average salary was $3.8 million. Anthony Stolarz coming in at $3.75 million. Dollars. We've got dollars for Stolarz. Happy accident. Look, I don't know whether the Leafs thought about that or not, but should he remain an injury concern? Should he remain a guy you can't count on, as the years go by? If he goes on LTIR, you will get his full, his full cap hit in LTIR, because that average salary will only go up from here and he will remain underneath it. So that is a nice, whether it was conscious or not, I don't know. It does seem like a little bit more than coincidence that those numbers are so close together for a guy who's hurt all the time, that his salary can be fully cashed in on in LTIR. But whether it was a happy accident or just a coincidence, it is useful for a guy who's been hurt as often as him. As for his perspective, he's in an interesting spot. Guys always talk about betting on themselves, right? Now, I don't need to sign right now. I'll play the final year of my contract. I will show you how good I am again. That was not a fluke last year. And I will cash in next year. If I play 41, 45 games for the Leafs, putting up pretty close to the numbers I put up last year, someone will give me $5 million. Maybe $6 million, with the cap up a little bit. But you got to be sure you're going to win that bet. And athletes are proud guys, but if I'm Anthony Stolarz, I'm looking at what keeps happening to me. I mentioned the knee injury last year that cost him 24 games. He also had his head caved in game 1 of the second round, accidentally, I'm sure, by Sam Bennett of the Florida Panthers. What if I don't bounce back from that? What if I'm not quite the same moving forward? And the Leafs go, oof, man, glad we dodged a bullet there. They don't sign him. Maybe somebody else is willing to take a flight. Yeah, you can come down here and show us on a 1-year, $2.5 million deal. Or do I just take the $15 million right now and make sure I'm set up? I'm pretty happy here. It went well here. The team believes in me. There's always risk for both parties. Like I said, if he has a more healthy year and keeps his numbers up, he probably left some money on the table and opted to just take the comfort right now. For the Leafs, yeah, maybe he falls apart at 31. The wheels totally come off, and you just can't ever count on him having another year like he did last year. Well, that's the risk they ran. But if not, if he does continue to play the way he did for you last year, $3.75 million, both in this world and the future cap world, are really easy numbers to digest. This year, the Leafs goaltending tandem of Joseph Woll and Anthony Stolarz will eat up just over $6 million of the cap. Next year, when Stolar's extension kicks in, it'll be just over $7 million. And right now, James Reimer back in the fold, as Joseph Woll has taken a personal leave of absence. We don't seem to have any information on how long that's going to be for. And I don't really think they want Dennis Hill to be sitting on the bench as the backup. I would imagine they would prefer him to be down on the Marlies making starts. So James Reimer is a guy who can back up for you. His numbers, as a third guy in your organization, presumably once Woll gets back, they're fine for that role. Like the Leafs have had this for a while, right? You think back to Martin Jones and Matt Murray, veteran guys who you're not particularly worried about finding starts for. You're just here when we need you. Sit over there till we call your name. James Reimer has acceptable numbers to do that again. There is an alternate universe where I'm excited that he's back in the fold. He showed himself to be a guy, just not the guy that I thought he was. So as far as his ability to play on the ice, yeah, it's perfectly suited to be a number 3. That's fine. As a guy that I get excited about seeing back in the fold and, get all emotional and nostalgic about, I would say that ship has sailed, and he's just a guy now, just a Matt Murray, a Martin Jones, and that's that. Last thing I guess we should touch on briefly was the Sens game on Sunday afternoon in Quebec City. I'll be honest, I'm of two minds of this thing, and if you missed it, there was a little bit of a stir that TSN did not broadcast the game for the Senators. And as people quite reasonably pointed out, it's an NHL preseason game on a day that the Blue Jays are doing their thing. Now, not on TSN, but that's eating up an awful lot of the sports audience. How much money do we want to spend to run a broadcast that's going to get crushed? But on TSN alone, you have their usual NFL commitments. You have the Ryder Cup going on. It was a really busy sports day. So those things are all factoring in on, the cost that it's going to be to broadcast that game. Get broadcasters in there, and it's not an NHL building, though it is certainly equipped to have quality broadcasts come out of it. And the return on investment. What's everybody else going to be watching today, and is it worthwhile? So the Sens made a bit of an effort. Maybe we could live stream it back to TSN 1200, and maybe Dean and Gord could call the game that way. And it sort of fell apart. Ian Mendez has started writing again as part of his gig for the Ottawa Senators. He's writing on their website, and he said, they tried a few things. Even if we can't get it up to, if we try and put together our own broadcast and then ask TSN 1200 to simulcast it, radio off our feed, it's now Dean and Gord and TSN 1200 who are going to look bad when it doesn't work. And they're just sitting back here in Ottawa. It's not them. If you can't get that feed up and running in a good enough way out of Quebec City, it's on the team and the people down there, but I'm the guy sitting here on the mic right now in the moment while fans are watching or listening going, man, this broadcast doesn't have it put together. And now TSN 1200 look bad. And now Dean and Gord look bad for something that had nothing to do with them. So TSN 1200 quite reasonably says, this is a bad idea. We're not going to go ahead. So the Sens say, well, maybe we can still just run it off of our website or YouTube. And this is where they lose me a little bit, that they weren't able to get it to a point, to just stream it on their YouTube channel or their website. In 2025, that isn't overly difficult. Look, it's not as simple as just somebody pointing their iPhone at the ice, but it could be. Like in a world that is, well, it's better than nothing, you could do that. But they've got action cameras. They've got a couple things. Pick one or two. For a couple $100, you can get like a YouTube podcast quality camera switcher and just make do. I don't know how many fans, like is it worth it? See, I'm the wrong guy to ask about this stuff for two reasons. My team's the Leafs. Wherever we go, we're on TV. But I don't give a shit about these preseason games. Like, if they're on and nothing else is on, I'll probably check in and see what the guy who's in the running to be the Marlies second line center is doing today. But if there's literally anything else interesting on, I'm probably going to watch that instead. So for me, I've seen probably a total of 4 periods of the Leafs preseason thus far, 2 periods of the Sens preseason thus far. But the Jays have been in it, so I'm watching that. The NFL season has started. I'm watching that. There's just other things to do when I'm watching that. So for me, this isn't the crisis. I don't want to overly dramatize this and be unfair. I think most Sens fans understood that while this is irritating, it isn't the end of the world. But like there always is, there are people jumping up and down and that this is an embarrassment and this is what... Whereas for me, it's just not that big of a scandal, right? Would I have preferred they've been able to find a way? Yes. Do I think, quite frankly, they should have been able to find a way to get it up on YouTube or their own website? Yes. But it's a preseason game in a market, like being played in a building that isn't their own, so things are a little out of whack. You don't have those comforts of home where you know how to get everything up and running the way you want. I don't really blame TSN for not wanting to do it. I applaud everyone for giving it a shot, but I do think this wasn't that difficult. And in a world where every Tom, Dick, and Harry can get themselves live on YouTube if they feel like it, at minimum, the Sens should have been able to get that done. I'm hearing the game down in St. Louis on Thursday is also not going to be locally available. At that point, I think it's a little silly. Now, the Blues home broadcaster isn't presenting that game either. I'm not sure to what degree that complicates things for the Senators. But that's not a Ryder Cup Sunday. That's not an NFL Sunday. I guess there's a Thursday NFL game, but TSN's got to find a way to get that game up and going. Because at that point, it's now 2 out of 3 games haven't been shown. They are just preseason games, but, as the preseason winds down, the rosters in theory get better, and it's Brady's homecoming to St. Louis. To whatever degree that still matters in the preseason sense, he's been to St. Louis before. He will be again this year. I don't know. I thought the whole thing came off to me a little silly, both that there was a certain group of fans who were so upset about it, but also that the team couldn't figure out a way to at least get it on their YouTube channel or whatever. That these things are not that complicated anymore. So that is what it is, I guess. At the end of the day, it's another game that doesn't matter. And at this point, we are just over a week until the ones that do. The season will be up and going. Graham Nichols will come back in here. He has done this at the beginning of every Sens season for the last probably 5 years now. Done our annual Ottawa Senators full season preview episode. And he has said he's coming back in to do it again. Jeff Fayette is our guy on the other end of the 401 who does the Leaf season preview. He's committed to come back as well. So all that's going to be fun. And as I said, We want to hear from you, how you want us to present that Brent Wallace episode. He will be here midway through Friday afternoon. As soon as we're done, do we just throw it up and get it out the door Saturday morning, hold it till the next week as kind of part of the launch of the NHL season? Let us know what you think at Tall Can Audio on social media. As I said, we'll try and circle back before that with one of our Blue Jays friends, a guy in the biz, guy that knows a little bit more than me. We'll see who we can coax into coming back on the show this week. It's going to be a very busy week for all of those people, so it might be a bit of a chore, but we'll give it a shot here and see how things shake loose. And I promise my vocal cords will be in better working condition by the time we do that again. Hopefully be a little less nasally. My apologies for that. But thank you for checking this one out. Always good to be back in the comfy confines of the TCA studio. In the concrete-filled and not at all picturesque or nature-y beautiful Bytown, Canada, where hopefully by the time I wake up in the morning, I'll be able to breathe once more. We'll put a bow on this one. My name's Matt Robinson. We'll catch you next time.
Yo, can't